Guys, the big one, not on the west coast of the United States or Canada, hopefully. We're talking about the potential big one in Japan because they have released an alert that this could happen, as you might know if you have followed my channel. But we want to talk about what that actually means for the country. And this is quite shocking because we have to talk about numbers, guys, that are numbers that we're not used to seeing in a developed country, and certainly not in a country that is as prepared for disaster as Japan is. So this will show us the magnitude of a potential big one that eventually will hit Japan. The question is only when. And I know my last video, it was stunning. I all of a sudden saw a lot of new subscribers. So I know where you all came from, guys. So this is a topic, that is discussed frequently now. Can earthquakes be predicted, yes or not? Since many said, well, it was kind of like, are the Japanese scientists, is the Japanese meteorological office now predicting earthquakes? Then they changed the narrative a little bit and say it's just a forecast or an assumption. But as you know, there are some certain people who are quite good with whatever you call this, predicting that something might happen. You can never be 100% sure because especially in this area, we don't know too much about it. But, if you're a good observer about what's happening all over the world, this is definitely some very, very interesting topic to look in. But what is happening in Japan right now? So basically, what we can say is that the whole country, Japan, is living in the shadow of this big one, the Megathrust Earthquake or Megaquake, how they call it, because it will come. And we have all seen when there was a 9.1 or 9.0, I think 9.1 in 2011, what has happened. And, not only the devastation that it has caused, that tsunami wave, but, also Fukushima. And as you all might remember, the debris was washed along the Pacific coast, but also radioactive material, so to speak. The water was increasing radioactivity in other areas of the Pacific. So this does not only influence Japan if things go south there. So in Japan, they live with the risk. They're very educated about the risk, and they are really preparing themselves very, very well. I wish we were prepared as well as the Japanese here on the West Coast, especially in Canada, when you see what buildings are still there that have no seismic upgrades, or that there are many people that don't even know about this risk. So Japanese people know that there is this risk of this devastating earthquake at any time. And so do I know that because I live on the West Coast, basically on top of the Cascadia Fault that can produce such megaquake. And they say it's basically overdue to do that. So I know what people are talking about when they're talking about what's going on in Japan right now. So usually, even if this risk exists, people tend to view that threat somehow in the abstract, right? Maybe this is like, you need to go on with your life somehow, or you live in fear all the time and you just sit out in the pasture, in the middle of a pasture, waiting for it. So it's kind of like, if you think about death, right? You'll die someday, but you're always hoping that it won't be today. And so far, you think, oh yeah, I'm still lucky, right? Which is good. And, until we're not. And this is kind of what maybe the Japanese people are doing, or what we're all doing who live in areas that could be struck by such an enormous devastating event like the big one. So last Thursday, the Japanese authorities have announced that there is an increased risk of the long-feared megaquake, that this could actually happen after they have seen the 7.1 earthquake. So they said they always come in pairs. This could be basically the announcement that the bigger one is about to come. And they have forced their citizens to consider the very real and immediate danger of an event. And let's be honest about this, that could devastate the country and change life there as we know it, and maybe even impact other countries and other areas in a very, very enormous way as well. Just keep 2011 in your mind. So the 7.1 magnitude tremor happened off Kyushu. You see this here on the map. So the country's meteorological office has issued, for the first time they ever did this, a warning that the likelihood of this long feared Nankai Trough mega quake, that this chance has increased, not doubled, it has increased by several times, many times. If you've seen my last video, I talked in more detail about the Nankai Trough, what that is, and why there is a risk for earthquakes. So check out that video if you want to learn more about the Nankai Trough. I don't want to go into deep detail in this video, but the link is in the end screen of this video. I also have a playlist about Japan. So the Nankai Trough is basically a fault line that's stretching some 700 to 900 kilometers down Japan's Pacific coast, basically from Shizuoka to Shikoku, and it is feared for a reason, and that's a very, very good reason. It has caused tremors in the past of magnitude 8 and more. And once these earthquakes are happening, they're always accompanied by devastating tsunamis. And we know in the 2011 quake, more people were lost because of the tsunami and not of the actual quake, sadly. And that tsunami did even catch the Japanese, the well-prepared Japanese, by surprise, that it was that tall and that massive. So around every 100 or 150 years, we see these mega events. But you know, it's Mother Earth. They don't come at exactly 100 years. Some event can come after 50 years, and then it's another 120 years. So we're in that range. So that's why the country has repeatedly warned that there is another imminent quake, and they estimated roughly that the chances for this to happen in the next 30 years is maybe 70 to 80%. And you know, 30 years, that's not that long of a time stretch. So what if it happens in 1 year, in 5 years? That is near, right? So that's why you should be able to prepare yourself, or should be prepared. But now the authorities in Japan are saying that the risk is even higher. And that's why they have issued this first time ever megaquake alert that surprised everyone. And people were unsure how to react to that, right? What does that mean? Because they were basically saying, well, especially within the next 7 days, we have approximately, I would say, 5 or 4 days left of that. The risk is very, very high. That's why the Prime Minister has canceled all his overseas trip. And he said, I'm going to stay home for at least 7 days, maybe longer, because I'm the most important disaster manager for the country. That tells you how serious this is, right? So, but people were asking, well, a higher risk or even higher risk, what does that even mean? So should we all completely change our plans like the Prime Minister did, change our lives? Was that a warning? Was it a prediction? So what should we do with that information? And that's a question, yeah, that everyone would probably ask. I mean, if that warning was to occur here, I think I'd stay at home. prepare myself, get enough water, food for the dogs, and supplies, and stay away from bridges, high rises, roads, tight downtown core areas, and stuff like this, right? Check out what's the safest area in my home where I'm not being hit by stuff falling down on me. I mean, if it's summertime, you could live out. I mean, I'm on a farm, right? I could sleep with the horses in the pasture. And you know what? Honestly, I probably would do that. Because I think that's, or sleep in your car in the middle of the pasture where no tree or nothing can fall on you, right? I think that's your best chance. Of course, you can only do that if you're not in a tsunami area that could be affected by the tsunami. Then you have to drive away, definitely drive away and go somewhere else. So it is difficult what to do, especially if you live in a downtown area, in a high rise, or even in the 5th, 6th floor. What do? Do you stay there? Do you get food and supplies? But what does that help you if your house might be destroyed? Doesn't really help you. So people are asking questions, and I don't blame them for that. And of course, it is always debatable if the risk is really that high that this Megathrust earthquake will occur in the very near future. But the risk from such an event, you can't ignore this because it is real. It is real, and we have to face that fact. And when it comes to earthquakes in general in Japan that are happening very, very often, the one that we're now worried about, this is really the big one. 2011 wasn't the big one yet. This big one is even worse. So what would happen to the country? Much of Japan, much of the country would really experience hard shaking, harder than any earthquake they have ever experienced. And it would shake hard, but it would also shake long. And that people would not be able to move or run away. They would be in place and it would shake. So, and then also tsunami waves, 10 meters, 30 meters, that's all in the possibility they could arrive within minutes. I know on the West Coast, should we see the big one here, it's only 8 to 15 minutes. That's why if I'm on the coast, I always try to be aware of my surroundings. Where is the higher ground? Can I reach it within that time frame? So I'm always aware of this, and I feel uneasy if I stay overnight along the coast, which I always find kind of sad because I love the coast of Oregon and even Washington and here in Canada as well. But I have this in the back of my mind, and it sometimes destroys the fun if I think too much about it. So yeah, I'm also trying to push it to the back of my head, make myself believe I know where there's higher ground and I can reach it. I'm always prepared. I have my doggies with me so that I know, oh yeah, I have a trolley, I have something where I can throw them in and then run. But it's not that easy, because if this big one hits you, the earthquake, and it's shaking so long, the roads might not be intact or worse stuff. So it's not that easy to catch that higher ground as you might think theoretically in your mind to keep yourself calm in a way. So, because they have to be prepared for that disaster. That's why the government has thought about forecasting that event, right? And they basically have started preparing for that event so that they could minimize the damage as much as that is even possible. Of course, many people say, well, earthquake prediction is not possible. You're a fool if you're doing that, yada, yada, yada. But, at least you can be sure it has occurred in the past in certain time frames. So it's a very high likelihood that it will occur again. And so it is not foolish to be prepared, in my opinion, and to give out warnings, to make the people aware and to remind them again, right? So let's talk numbers. So if the big one hits and it is followed by a tsunami, then the government modeling has put the number of people that will be lost by this event of up to 320,000. And the country could sustain an 11% hit to gross domestic product, which are some 220 trillion yen of damage. So one estimate from the Japanese Society of Civil Engineers has even put the total economic impact over 20 years at nearly 6 times of that. So over the following 20 years. So that is massive. That is massive. And they're also saying that nearly 10% of the population might have to be evacuated. And this is before we even get to any impacts on nuclear power plants, right? That would change the narrative also if something happened there, but that is a supposed to unforeseeable risk. They don't know that, right? We know in 2011 it led to disaster, the meltdowns in Fukushima. So that's why I said at the beginning, these are numbers that we usually do not see in countries like Japan, such developed countries and such well-prepared countries. And you know, when I said maybe we should learn from this, we know that the earthquake that hit on March 11th in 2011, it was preceded by foreshocks. So I guess that's one of the reasons why they're more careful this time. So usually what happens on the Nankai Trough, if we see a quake in one part of the fault line, it's often followed by another. And that's why they've given out that warnings. So the pairing, what they call it, the earthquakes come in pairs. It can occur within hours. It did that back in 1854. Or up to like 2 years later, for example, as it happened in 1944 and in 1946. So that was the last time the fault caused a major tremor. So we don't know where the 7 days are coming from, right? So it is hard to tell. But you know, the timing right now when this 7.1 earthquake happened, I mean, it's summertime in Japan, and they have a holiday period where really everyone goes to the beaches. They call this Obon. So in that period, the people that live in the big cities, they usually return to their hometowns for summer vacation to visit relatives and stuff like this. But it's a holiday season, and we remember that we had the last major earthquake on New Year's Day in January. And so that was just when people were napping off from the holidays. They had one, right? So is that good or bad? I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad if people are out of the big cities, should it happen. But if they're in their hometowns, coastal towns or something like this could be bad, because when the tsunami is coming. So I guess you have to leave this to fate. I don't know. But people are insecure. They don't know. Is it time to panic just yet or not? So for some people, for sure, they take this as a good reminder to check on their status of emergency supplies and their equipment. And I guess I would be one of them. That would be, yeah, I probably wouldn't panic, but I would definitely think about what I'm doing. But there were also people that reacted laughing it off, not taking it seriously. We will see who is right? You know, but there's others like professor at the University of Tokyo. His name is Robert Geller. He believes that any prediction is a waste of time and distracts authorities from preparing for earthquakes that can't be anticipated. He says all the countries' disasters so far have fallen into that category, that they weren't predicted, right? But I'm asking him the questions, can't we learn from the past? And if we see certain things happening that we know last time led to an even bigger disaster, better be safe than sorry. So I think it's better to issue one alert to many rather than not doing it, right? So the problem with this alert is, now if nothing's going to happen, if there's a future warning, will people ignore it? Do like, nothing happened last time, right? But next time the danger might have increased dramatically, even further. That's the risk that comes with this. So overall, for residents in Japan, but also for all of us, it is a reminder to be aware that something might happen, to prepare ourselves best as we can, and also maybe understand the fragility of everything that surrounds us, that we have built, and how quickly it could end. And then maybe not be upset about minor things or waste our time with things that are not worth it. That's what I can come up with at the end of this video, guys. I'll keep you updated about that for sure. We're still waiting for the volcano in Iceland that says, hold my beer. I'll surprise you maybe. Everything points towards it that it should come up with some lava. But we will see. I've just released a video about it. It's here in the end screen. Check it out, guys. And I hope I will see you very, very soon. If you want to support my channel, check out the link here in the video for my Buy Me a Coffee site. There you can buy me fuel, so to speak, that keeps me up and running. And thanks for your supers, and just thanks for being here on a regular basis and watching my videos. It helps my channel a lot, guys. So thank you very much. I see you soon. Bye-bye.